This video is for product demonstration purposes only. Situations vary, and operators should rely on their own professional knowledge and safety procedures when conducting actual recoveries. Operators should always wear appropriate personal protective equipment and follow all local, state, and federal safety regulations when conducting recoveries. Miller Industries Towing Equipment Inc. is not responsible for any damage resulting from the misuse of equipment or any subsequent personal harm or damage to equipment or property resulting from its misuse.
Hello, my name is Tom Luciano from Miller Industries, and this afternoon we're here to try to show you how to do heavy winching off the rear of your truck. In this case we have an 1150 here, but whether it be 1150, a 1075, or whatever rotator series you have, it'd be one and the same. We're utilizing a pick and a pull. The pick and the pull is an important part about stabilizing that truck and making that truck anchor the best you can. In many situations it may be different, where you may want to do a 3 or a 4 part drag winch line. In this case here we're doing a 2-part drag winch line. We have this garbage truck, it's over the embankment. You can see it's in soft, basically packs some sand and stone. So it is soft, it's been raining. So we're going to winch this out singly. And one of the important parts about this are your 2 boom winches are going to the left side and the right side. And if you also notice, the return lines are coming to the main stage on the boom, not the end or the inner stage, but to the main stage. We don't want to be pulling on the inner side, because if we do, it's going to be basically pulling against the cylinders. So with that, there's some important things we want to show you. We're going to walk around the back of the truck and point out some of those things. So what we're trying to show you, when you're looking through the camera and seeing the ends of the wire ropes at the boom end, you see the termination at the main D-rings on the main stage itself. That's a very important part. You want that separation for a couple of reasons. The other thing is, you want to pay attention, is the wire rope going over the shiv head. That wire rope makes an apex. The resultant of that apex is it's pushing directly down on the rear jack legs, which is driving them into the ground. If I extend the boom out farther, it's going to raise the front of the truck up quicker. If I retract the boom, it's going to put not as much weight on the rear jacks. So the perfect place is right about at tailboard side, so you see the resultant angle being what we have right here currently. You can see when I engage one winch line or both winch lines, it's actually compressing the jack legs into the ground because the footing is so bad. Incidentally, we do have the rear jack legs down in the flipper feet in the ground, but if you notice, they're retracted, and also the front H-beam is down. It is not extended. Never extend your outrigger legs when doing a recovery like this. Always keep them retracted. Lastly, the other thing that's real important to know about this, the air ride is up, inflated, not deflated, and also the winch brake is on. We want both the spring brakes and the winch brake on in the truck to assist us in holding that truck still. We've got our rear hydraulic jack legs down, and the flipper feet are down, buried into the ground itself. If you notice what we've done, we've taken an endless loop strap, we've attached it to actually the anchoring or the D-ring area on the back of your stabilizers, and we make the strap into a V with a master link in the middle. No matter what we do, we're going to be pulling on the jack legs that are buried in the ground. So the most important thing is first bury them. Secondly, the boom compression load down. Thirdly, we're going to pick with the 2 wire ropes on the winch end. And if you notice, there's 2, not 1. And the reason for that, we can balance this truck, or actually winch it a little bit to the left, a little bit to the right, to break that suction that it's in right now. We're not going to use the drag winch until once we get a lot of pressure on the boom elevation. The boom is up at 50 degrees. It's okay, that's where we want it. We don't want the boom down at 20 degrees. You won't get that compaction from the shiv heads resultant down to the outrigger legs. So we're going to put it up high, bring the front wheel so they're just starting to leave the ground, and then stop with the winch lines at the boom, and then go with the drag winch lines. This is not attaching here, it's attaching here because we're pulling against the ground. Otherwise we'd be pulling against a platform at this point. If you notice, we have 2 grade 100 half-inch chains, and what we've got them in is a basket conformity. And the reason for that is we don't want to pull on a single leg of a 1/2 inch greater than 100 chain because we'd only be at 15,000 pounds working load limit. So because we've got 2-part lines, we've got it going down underneath the axle and then back and up over the top of the frame. The other end is attached to the front of the actual spring pin hanger on both the left and the right. And the reason for that, we want to get some steerability, we want to get some lift. If we were just dragging this, the front axle of the truck would drag through the mud. But by hooking or attaching them to the elevation winches, we're going to get lift. The lift is going to compress our suspension, and guess what? The other thing it's going to do for us, it's going to give us lift to get that front axle out of that mud. Then we'll go to the drag winch, which is attached to the front of the truck, and it's a 2-part line. So we'll get our lift and then our pull, our pick and then our pull. So if you notice, we've got a 50K drag winch, 2 50K winches up on the boom, and we've all got 2-part lines on all 3 winches. And the reason for that is line speed, because line speed is fairly even. So at this point now, we're going to go back to the truck, start it up, and let's get this thing winched out. So Mike's going to run the controller, and if you notice, he grabbed the wireless remote. One of the things that's real important, because it's very easy, we have 2 more winches on the truck, so make sure you freewheel the auxiliary winches because we're not using them. Mike's going to initially start by using the 2 upper boom winches. If you notice, the lower side is the right side of the vehicle, so he's going to get some pick on the lower side. Then he's going to run the 2 of them together, and as we watch, the front of the truck is starting to come up a little bit, and that's what we want. It's the transfer of the weight picking up on the truck, and we're starting to engage the winches. We don't want the drag winch yet. All we want is the main winches winching slow and getting some lift. If you watch, you'll see the the drag winch start to get slack. That's what we want. So Mike's not going to use the drag winch right now. He's going to only use the boom winches. Let the drag winch get slack. We've got the front end has come up a little bit. We've driven the back down in the ground. If you paid attention, the back went down. So once Mike gets a little more tension, then he's going to go with the drag. So you see the drag is loose right now. We're going to do with a pull. Watch what happens. The bottom strap starts to tighten up, and now we're pulling the truck and it's starting to settle back down again. That's what we call the pick and the pull. Once Mike gets a pull on it, a good tight pull, he's going to go back with the upper ones and do the same thing again. By the way, the brakes are on this truck also. The front ones are not, but the rear ones are. So the brakes are locked up, and what you're seeing is you're going to see more and more resistance as we pull this. You see the back going down. You can watch the outrigger. It's going down in the ground. That's what we want. That's our compression load back on our leg. And then he's going to go with the pull, and as soon as he goes with the pull, it starts to come right up. You can see the front axle of the truck that's digging, it's miring in. It's mired in dirt, the soft dirt. And as I said, the brakes are on. But that pick and pull is exactly what we want that truck to do. It's anchoring. You notice the truck did not scoot back at all. And if Mike needs to, he can engage the left winch or the right winch and actually steer the vehicle back and forth if he wants to steer it one way or the other. And see what happens? As soon as Mike goes on the drag, what it do? It pull the truck back down again. Now, we're trying to get that axle from not digging in, so he goes back up with the upper winches. It starts to pick it up again. Then he goes with the pick and the pull. And you watch that truck respond to the tow truck, and you, the operator, need to understand, in this case, we're steering it with the 2 winches. There's a lot of times we want to marry or take those winches and make it a single 4-part line and not use one of the winches. This is not the case. There you go. Mike's back on the drag winch. You see it coming right back down again. That's exactly what we want. Pick, pull. By the way, this has a piston pump in it, and if you notice, the truck is at idle. The truck is not with the RPMs up because we're pulling. We want finesse on this job. We necessarily don't want speed. There we go again. Starts to pull it down. So we're getting our lift. We're starting to minimize some resistance. So it's pulling it back down again. We start to get resistance. We go back to the pick again. Anytime you get a dozer or a loader or anything like this, if you get multiple trucks in, it's always better to place the tow trucks at an angle. In this case, we're straight on. Anytime you're straight on, it's going to take more resistance to start to get it to move. But you can see Mike's doing a great job working the 3 winches, keeping them working together, but at the same token, you're seeing that pick and pull and how the truck responds itself. And remember, the back is building up aggregate because the brakes are locked intentionally on this unit. And you also get a good look at why we took the chains and made them into a basket and didn't use them singly. Now obviously the winches need to be on low speed. If the winches were on high speed, we wouldn't have this power cycle that we're going through right now, where the winches aren't stalling, the winches are just continuing to pull. Mike is not on the controls altogether, he's feathering them to get the finesse out of it. There you go back to your pick and pull. You don't get any prettier than this. Now obviously as we get the vehicle closer and closer to us, where we don't need the lift as much, you can start to take the boom and start to bring it down a little bit so you're not getting as much lift, or you can just finish the job with just the drag winch itself. But if you start to boom down, again, the piston pump, you have the ability of booming down and also engaging the winches. By the way, anytime you do a job like this, make sure the house lock is unlocked. You never want to do any recovery jobs with any rotator with the pin or the house lock locked. Always make sure that is unlocked so the boom has its own ability of positioning itself if needed to the load. In this case here, we really don't need it. You can really see the aggregate on the back tires now really starting to build up as we're bowling through it. And again, if you notice, the truck did not drag back because we put the outriggers in the proper position to bury themselves in the ground, and we have our free dead man there, so we're pulling against it. We're pulling against the outriggers that are buried. Remember, do not use two individual straps. You want one long strap with a master link in the middle, because if we're off at one angle or the other, it'll always center itself and pull evenly on the legs together. You can see the back tires aren't turning at all. Great shot right there of how much aggregate is underneath the vehicle. And actually Mike has two choices right now, you the operator. The worst of the pull is over. We went through the gradient resistance, so you can either take the drag winch and pull it straight on and not even use the boom winches, or use the boom winches to keep up with it just in case so it doesn't roll away on you. Again, we talk about the drag winch enough, but remember, we're lowering the center of gravity on the truck, and the boom did exactly what it was supposed to do, and that is drive that weight to those rear spades. You know, I hope you use this in future heavy winch jobs, because we're trying to show you how to use your rotator and get the most out of it. And the pick and the pull is certainly the best option you have when it comes to heavy winching something like this. And always remember, never extend your outrigger legs out while winching. With this, you see we got it back up on the ground itself. You can see the turf that we dug, and obviously the job has been successful. So use these tips to help yourself work smarter, not harder. Thank you.